Sudan is probably one of the worst places I've been from the humanitarian crisis side of things. And unfortunately, it hasn't gotten the exposure that it needs to get. And that's part of why I visited Sudan. We look at these people like it's their test. And I remember thinking to myself, it's our test. I thought to myself sitting there, this woman is my test. When they say Alhamdulillah, they mean it. You're sitting there in this like sweltering heat. She's standing in line for like 6 hours and she's saying Alhamdulillah and she means it. We don't understand this small donation that we make, what a difference it makes in someone's life. For us at Human Appeal, the idea is we want to take people from surviving to thriving.
I think part of the issue is that we have commercialized poverty so much that we just feel like it's something that is digital, that we can't feel or touch or smell or see. And when we as humanitarians go and we are witness, and then we come back and we are bearing witness, that is part of the process of like really humanizing what is happening on the ground.
See, it just makes me cry.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of A Voice for Every Human Appeal's official podcast. My name is Asila Borno and I'm delighted to be your host today and to be interviewing one of my dear colleagues, Rania Lewendy, who just got back from Sudan. We are going to be talking about all things related to Sudan in her field visit that she just came back from, and also what you can do as supporters to be more engaged with what is happening there today. So first, welcome, Rania. I am so delighted to have you with us on this show today. And, you know, it was such a serendipitous occasion because you and I first met when we were doing a meeting with the High Ministry of Health, who were in Washington, D.C., to really let us know about what's happening. And then you were flying out the very next day to Khartoum. So it was just such great timing to meet you. I know you're from our Human Appeal office in Canada. I'm here in Washington, D.C. And just, you know, in the spirit of our global family of Human Appeal, we really try to work together and really understand the scope of our programs, of our fundraising, and actually what's happening on the ground. So I'm so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. You just arrived from Sudan. What was the very first thing that struck you when you arrived, and how did it compare to what you expected?
I didn't expect the destruction that I saw, to be honest. So we originally landed in Port Sudan and then got on a UN flight to Khartoum. And you actually, I don't know if people know this, but you can't fly into Khartoum directly because the airport was destroyed. But there wasn't a single building that we drove by in Khartoum that wasn't completely either demolished or shot up, or it even looked like the holes were so big, it looked like cannons had shot at them. And when I say not a single building, I mean that including the masajid. So it was almost being like in like a movie, like an apocalyptic movie. So that it was very, it's not decimated the same way Gaza would be because there's still some buildings there, but every single building has holes in it. And I think that was one of the biggest things. And then from a human standpoint, the spirit of the Sudanese people, like I've traveled all over the world and many people who know me know that I'm always on the field. Sudan is probably one of the worst places I've been from the humanitarian crisis side of things. And unfortunately, it hasn't gotten the exposure that it needs to get. And that's part of why I visited Sudan, to also amplify the voices of the Sudanese people and for people to know what is actually happening. Because according to the UN, and I saw this myself, it is actually the largest humanitarian crisis right now in the world. And so it's really important that we understand that. But the spirit of the Sudanese people was also something like, you know, a lot of people think that people who are getting charity want a handout or need a handout. And one thing that I've seen in many of the countries I've visited is that people actually don't want a handout. Many of these people have been displaced by war. They were like you and me, right? Like this could happen to anybody. And so they just want to be able to like make a living. And, so a lot of them were really imploring us to do projects that have to do with livelihood. And alhamdulillah, we were able to visit some of these projects that we have, like Human Appeal is not only doing emergency response and early recovery, but also doing some sustainable development stuff in Sudan. And it was really nice to see these livelihood centers. But when they say alhamdulillah, they mean it. Like that was like you're sitting there in this like sweltering heat. She's standing in line for like 6 hours and she's saying alhamdulillah and she means it. And I think that was something that really struck me, because a lot of times like people say, oh, how are you doing? You say alhamdulillah, but you're just saying it as a word, but you could really feel that they were thanking God to even just be able to come back. Because I think people don't understand that much of Khartoum and the surrounding areas are actually internally displaced people, right? So for them to be away from war, that Khartoum is now back for the Sudanese people, Khartoum and the surrounding areas, they're really from their heart happy to just be back in their homeland and safe.
So Sudan holds a very special place in my heart because I'm from Gaza and I speak to my family that's in Gaza pretty regularly. And one of the things that you just mentioned that reminded me, when I was talking to my cousins that were, one of them was injured and I helped to get them evacuated to Egypt. When I would call them to ask, how are you? They would say, Alhamdulillah, ihna birida. We are in acceptance of God's will. And I honestly feel like they are in a different spiritual state than we could ever be. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to capture this conversation, because this is fresh, like you just got back from Sudan. I wanted to ask you, how does this trip affect you personally, emotionally, spiritually? How do you walk in this world after an experience like that?
To be honest, like part of being a humanitarian on the ground, you do have to compartmentalize because they're very difficult days, right? So there's an interview I did, see, just makes me cry. There was a widow there who was just like this beacon of light. Like I can't even tell you. It's probably one of the best interviews I've ever done. And she lost her husband while she was pregnant. She's raised these 5 beautiful children. And she is like an education assistant, so has a little bit of money, but they're in our orphan sponsorship program. Asil, she doesn't really have a place, like there's no roof. Like if it rains, if it anything, like it's insane, the living circumstance, and just the beaming smile, and just like she was like, just the fact that you're here visiting me, like this is by the grace of Allah. And she's like, alhamdulillah, some days we don't eat, but then Allah will send someone, like a neighbor will come and bring us. And I'm just like in my mind, I'm like, how can you have so much hope? Subhanallah, right? And like you said, like we live in a state where people are always wanting to be happy, right? And Islamically, the goal is not happiness. The goal is actually rida. It's the contentment, right? That you're content with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, because you don't know where the khair is. And I remember sitting in that interview. Normally I don't cry in an interview, but I couldn't help it. Like I cried. Everyone was crying. Okay. Like it wasn't just me, grown men crying. But I remember thinking, like, we look at these people like it's their test, right? And I remember thinking to myself, it's not their test. Like they're passing this with flying colors. It's our test. Like I thought to myself sitting there, this woman is my test, right? And so I've actually been horrifyingly bad with the staff since I've been back, because I'm like, guys, I need the price points. Guys, we need to fundraise. Guys, we need to help these people. Guys, we need to get this word out. That's why when you were like, I want to do this podcast, I'm like 100% I'm in, right? Like wherever we need to like, sing it from the rooftops, that not just the situation, like there are millions of people that are in famine right now in Sudan. Like it was so heartbreaking. Like we have a bakery there that is making 19,000 like loaves of bread a day.
Oh,
Okay?
wow.
Imagine a
MashaAllah.
day.
Wow.
It's not enough. It's only serving 10% of the people. And
Ugh.
it's for free, right? And people were coming up to me and saying, like, we need to be signed up because we do like it's serving 14 kind of like governance around. And so really it's 10% of each of the ones so that you can cover all of them. But if
Mm.
we had the money, the bakery actually has the ability to make more because they could do 2 shifts, right?
Mm.
So it's those like, those pheno breads. So we give 12 in a package for each family. And people come like at Fej waiting with their cards, waiting for this bread. And I remember talking to a guy and him telling me he has 10 kids. And he's like, at least this takes care of one of my meals for my
Ya
children,
Allah. Ya
right?
Allah.
And so, we don't think twice about bread. And when you say, how has it changed you? Like, I was eating out this morning for breakfast and there was just like a piece of bread left and the waiter wanted to take it away. And I said, no, 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 like I'm taking it with me. And because I'm remembering the person who actually doesn't have the bread, I'm not going to be throwing anything out. I'm not going to take that for granted. So I think like we compartmentalize in that we still have to go on with our lives, but at the same time, it gives us such a push to, and this is why I love going on the field. Like in my prior job, I was a CEO and it was weird for a CEO to always be on the field, but I always did that because it was important for me, one, to assess the needs of the people and in the countries that I was in, but also it always keeps you connected to why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So a
Yeah.
lot of times we get caught up in just the fundraising piece of things, but the big picture of it is actually, and the heart of any humanitarian org is the programs department. It's not actually the fundraising. I know the fundraising team gets like the glorified kind
Yeah.
of, whatever, but it is actually the programs team, the ones that are day in and day out. I remember like we left at 7 a.m. We didn't get back to the hotel till like 11 o'clock at night. And we stopped to get dinner. And I remember telling some of the program staff at the Sudan office, like, why don't you come eat with us? And they said, we actually have an application that's due tonight for a grant for one of the UN agencies. We can't. Right. So they're on the field with us. Their families are also suffering. Some of them had families in Egypt, but they're staying in Sudan so they can, like, they're staying in a guest house so that they can be serving their people. And so, it's a very humbling experience. And then at the same time, you feel so blessed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to choose you to do this work
SubhanAllah. Yeah.
because it is a blessing, right? And we have to understand that and not chosen in that, oh, you're better than someone or you're special, but that it has to always be connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And so it definitely helps you spiritually. There's no question. Like you'd have to have a dead heart to not
Yeah.
be affected by like that woman. I'll never ever forget her. There's a woman, and one of your colleagues was with me, Ali. This old woman, we have a hearing aid clinic. And a lot of countries that are affected by war, obviously, one of the things that goes in people is their hearing because of the loud
Mm.
bombs, because of the shelling.
Oh,
People don't get that.
SubhanAllah. Right.
And so we have a hearing aid clinic that we were running as Human Appeal. And there was like, she must have been 80 years old. And she said to me that she'd been coming. So her name was Selwa, never forget her. She told me she doesn't have children. And in our cultures, like you're kind of like ostracized, right? If you're a woman that doesn't have kids. And not only that, but she was like obviously older and on her own. And she said, you can be my adopted daughter. And I said,
Oh.
anytime. And so she said that she'd been coming for 4 years to get the hearing aid. And obviously they give the priority to younger people and, like makes sense. And then eventually, so alhamdulillah, the day that we met her, she'd just gotten her hearing aid.
Oh.
And she was so excited. And I said to her, what made you come back for 4 years? Like, why did you want a hearing aid so much? And she looked at me and she said, because before I die, I want to be able to go to the masjid and hear Salatul Jummah and Quran. And oh my God, I was just like,
Oh,
right?
Rania.
Like,
Okay.
yeah. No, no, I could tell you, believe me, like I can make you cry those whole podcasts, I promise you. Like the stories and just the sincerity in her heart. And like we take it for granted. You know, I've had, alhamdulillah, 5 children. I hear my kids say, Mama, they can hear the Quran. Um, we take these things for granted.
Allah.
We don't even think about it. And imagine like she knows that she's getting older and she may die at any time. And she's just so excited. And so we don't understand this small donation that we make, what a difference it makes in someone's life. Like imagine the dua that this woman is making for whoever got her the hearing aid, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
not just for human appeal, but the donor themselves that got her the hearing aid, that now she's hearing Quran. Like you can't pay for that. So we're
No.
the ones who need, like, that's why I always say, you know, when I speak in a fundraising dinner, I'm like, guys, the fact that I even need to stand up here is honestly ridiculous,
Yeah.
because we know
Very
our brothers and
embarrassing.
sisters are suffering
Yeah.
around the world, right?
Yeah.
And you need them more than they need you. There is
Yeah.
written, Allah's going to send it. You're the
Yeah.
loser if you don't hasten to make sure that you're the one making the donation or you're the one working. You know, like a lot of us in the field, sometimes people complain about their jobs or you know, and subhanAllah, we are so blessed to be able to do a job that's also Islamic work. Like we're literally, you know, like we hit the jackpot if we make our intention
Yeah.
truly for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. And so, you know, even with these little kids, one of the campaigns that we're going to be doing, and we're launching it today actually, is, you know, we saw these mothers being turned away crying, um, at this clinic, at our clinic.
Ya
And of
Allah.
course, I was like, oh my God, what's going on? Why are they, you know? And they were joking around actually, because they were like, usually a visit takes half an hour, but when Rania does a visit, it takes 2 hours because I like sit and talk to everyone. And the woman was like telling me that her son's hearing is so impaired that he needs a high-powered hearing aid. So he can't, like, he's, for all intents and purposes, like completely hearing disabled, like, you know? And so, and now think about that. So if he was young and you had to speak and then couldn't hear anymore due to war, different medical conditions, then what ends up happening is his speech gets affected. He forgets like how to talk. Or the longer you wait before a kid is screened or needs the hearing aids, it affects his ability to speak at all, right? But you know what else we don't realize, and this is part of our privilege, is that they don't go to school. There's no
Oh
school that can
no.
accommodate them.
Oh.
And so literally when we give these gifts of hearing to a child, you're literally changing their future completely. It's not just about them hearing or being bullied or any of these things. It like, I mean, those are all side things, but
Yeah.
legitimately it is like, it's a death sentence to not be able
Yeah.
to hear in a society that doesn't have schools for the hearing impaired, right? And when you have war, you can barely, like, we visited some schools, like there, it's not even a condition for learning. So imagine someone who can't hear. And subhanallah, and that's why the first campaign I'm actually starting with for Sudan, and I know that's weird, but I'm an educator in my past life, and so education, I know, breaks the cycle of poverty.
Right. Yeah.
And it's for us at Human Appeal, the idea is we want to take people from surviving to thriving, right?
Right.
So not just looking at an education, we do something called a backwards design, where we design like, right? And so, and that's my approach to any type of humanitarian work, to be honest. And so what is the tool that we can give them? And literally it's like $1,000, Hadiya. Now it's a see, like it is a more expensive thing than the normal just hearing aid. But imagine, like, literally for $1,000, you change the trajectory of someone's life. And we have 150 kids on the wait list actually in Sudan right now. So it's really, really important that that we look at these things. And I wouldn't have known that had I not been on the field. And so that's one of the other reasons, obviously, that I go down, so that I can see these things and look and say, okay, what are the projects that I really want to prioritize?
We are here in Khartoum, Sudan, here at the hearing clinic, and alhamdulillah, we were able to serve 150 children and give them hearing aids. But unfortunately, there were also 150 children who are not able to receive high-powered hearing aids.
The plan is, guys, this is where we come to you. So I want you to imagine many of these parents have kids who cannot speak because they cannot hear, which means they can't go to school. The kids are frustrated, the parents are frustrated, and basically without education, they don't have a future. And our job is to help break that cycle of poverty and give kids a new lease on life and give them the dignity of being able to be producers in society, inshallah, and part of the Sudanese community. So please, I mean, there's so many things that are needed in Sudan, but if we can help one of every one of these children to please get hearing aids, we want you to visit our Instagram. Inshallah, we're going to have the links up. We want every single one of you who hears this message. It doesn't matter if it's $10, $5, $100. It costs less than $1,000 to give these kids a new lease on life, and we know that you're going to come through.
Click the link in the bio, and let's save a child to save the world.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's so much to unpack but what you just said. But I think, just one thing is just the importance of storytelling and the importance of people going and seeing firsthand for themselves. Because I think part of the issue is that we have commercialized poverty so much that we just feel like it's something that is digital, that we can't feel or touch or smell or see. And when we as humanitarians go and we are witness, and then we come back and we are bearing witness, that is part of the process of like really humanizing what is happening on the ground. And I just feel so ashamed because I've been working in the field of Sudan for a few years now, but I feel like we have done it so much injustice in terms of really sharing these stories and making it come to life for people. And one of the things that we really want to share and highlight, and you kind of mentioned them a little bit, but I want to dig a little bit deeper. It's about the field workers. It's about the human appeal staff that don't get to leave. They don't get to leave this. This is what they're living day in and day out. Were you able to meet with some of them? What are the challenges that they're facing day in and day out? And how are they able to overcome some of these challenges?
Oh, of course. So one of the benefits of Human Appeal, and one of the reasons why I chose to work with Human Appeal, is that we do have our own offices on the ground. So we are what you call an implementing partner. So Yep. We don't just fly somewhere, put on a vest, and this is our work. No, this is actually our office doing our work. Now, we also work within the UN clusters, and let's say the shelter cluster, for instance. So handing out dignity kits and NFI kits and all of these things. So we met all of the staff. Some of them, actually, I shouldn't say all the staff. We met the majority of staff. Some of them are obviously in some of the remote areas doing the field work when we were there. But we met the majority of the staff, alhamdulillah. We actually have a huge office. We've been there since we've been there since 2019. So we were there pre-war, actually, because the conflict started in 2023. And so, alhamdulillah, we have a very well-established office. One of the things that, alhamdulillah, we are brokering is a partnership with the IOM, which is the International Organization of Migration, and it is one of the UN entities. And when I went and met them in Port Sudan, I went to their warehouse and everything, and they talked about their partnership with Human Appeal. Alhamdulillah, we have actually distributed $2.5 million worth, USD dollars worth of NFI kits and shelter to the Sudanese people through IOM's grant to us, alhamdulillah. And so one thing that I loved is they told us how quickly we respond when they request anything, the great work that we're doing. And so I was really, and as you know, I've worked in other organizations too, but the work is really phenomenal that is happening on the ground. They did not complain. All of them are living literally in these guest houses because it is basically either refugees or IDPs, which are internally displaced people coming in from different areas. Most of the staff that we met, their families are actually in Egypt. So they had gone to Egypt during the war, but they stayed to serve their country, right? And so you can imagine the type of people that we're talking about, right? And the level of sacrifice. And I'm not just talking about men and women. So they're away from their, some of them had obviously older children, but they're away from their kids. They go back and forth, like they're able to visit them, but it's not easy, right? And so the hours that they put in, because they really just have work. Right. And so, and I asked them, like the head of programs, Sister Ilham, I asked her, like, your family's in Egypt. She has a kid like in high school, I think. So it's not like all of them are older. And I said to her, like, and I know one of the kids, I think was 12. I said, like, why are you not in Egypt like everyone else? Like you had a chance to escape. And she said, well, like, who's going to take care of my people?
Ya Allah.
Right? Like I have a responsibility. So if I can do it, I'm going to do it. And, Brother Ibrahim, who's in charge of the office there, he's been there since 2019. He's this older gentleman, like father figure, and just really the dedication that you see from everyone. And it's not just the programs team. The accounting team wanted me to see everything, everything from it was crazy how excited they were also to show us the work. Yeah. And, when I came in, I kind of changed the schedule last minute and I was like, no, I need to see this and I need to see this and I want to see schools and I want to see what you guys, and they accommodated everything. And they were so happy that people were coming and wanting to showcase what was happening in Sudan. And they said, just please get our voices out and please let the world know what is actually happening here.
Oh my gosh.
You should have been on that trip, Asil. It was like,
I don't know.
It was such a good, like it was so hard, but it was such a good, it was such a good trip. Like, everyone.
Well, they sent the right person, because not everyone can go and come back and tell a compelling story that really details out everything that's truly happening and do it justice. And I think that you are just incredible.
I don't know if I did that, but
no, mashallah, mashallah.
I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really and I was gonna, me and you are gonna meet about this because, I do the advocacy in Canada, but we need to really join forces and get our governments to recognize what's happening in Sudan, to give more money and aid for Sudan, and also for our Muslim brothers and sisters to understand there are millions of people who are displaced, which means they don't have homes to go back to. Like when I tell you every single, it wasn't even bullet holes, literally looked like cannons. Like the holes were huge. Like it was crazy. It was literally like being in a movie. So you're going back to what? And the widow that we had visited, because in our orphan sponsorship program, we have over 2,000 orphans, alhamdulillah, sponsored in Sudan. Inshallah. They have the ability to do 5,000. So that means that we have like about 2,700 orphans on the wait list. There is no excuse for us in Canada and the States to not cover these orphans right away. And it's literally it's the cost of a coffee a day, not even a latte.
Just a regular
not
coffee.
A latte. Yeah.
Just a regular.
Like I don't even drink those like a regular coffee. Like what are we gonna say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Wallahi, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, like so this is the thing. And sometimes it causes you to feel like I try to get away from being overwhelmed, because like there's so many people to help and there's so many things to do, but I always think about it as like one person at a time. It's one orphan at a time. It's one person at a time. My mother, Allah yarhamha, passed away December 24th. And obviously that was a very difficult period. And I obviously wanted to do something in her honor. And at the time, when I joined Human Appeal, I said, I want to sponsor 500 orphans, because I found out that in Gaza we had like a few thousand orphans on the wait list.
Yeah.
And so I said, I remember starting this campaign and saying, I'm going to sponsor 500 orphans for my mom. And my mom was always someone who, subhanAllah, like my dad died over 20 years ago. When my dad died, my mom was younger than I was and had 6 kids, right? So technically was a widow. Like my youngest brother was like 9, but alhamdulillah, you know, she was a businesswoman and was able to take care of our family. But what we found out after she died is my dad used to always, and we know this, like a lot of people, they send money back home, right, for their families. Right. So my dad used to take care of obviously his whole family in the village that he's from in Egypt. Well, we found out that my mom was actually taking care of the whole village and had continued to do that for all these years, you know, subhanAllah. And we found this out obviously because when she died, and we didn't know, like we actually didn't know. And one of the things that I would say is, especially people who are in the public sphere, so someone like yourself or myself or whatever, it's important that we do things also in secret. So, you know, we have our public things that we're doing, and I would give that advice to everyone, you know, do your public things, but always have things like my mom did things in front of us that we all knew about. I almost feel like I learned about my mom when she died, which is so crazy. Like the amount of people who would come up to me and be like one kid had become a millionaire, and she was like, he said when he first came from Egypt, he was on scholarship, like he was 16 years old, and my mom fed him every day for free.
Wow.
For 4 years while he was in university. You know what I mean? And he's like, whatever I can donate to this campaign, I'm going to donate. Another person came and said, you know, in Ontario, which is, think of it like your whole state, every single masjid, your mom has put Qur'ans in. And she would buy them. And the lady said, I told your mom as she got older that I would go do it for her. And my mom said no, that she wanted the reward for that, for instance. And we had no idea. We had no, like she said, there's not a masjid in this area, which is Ontario, like your Washington state or whatever you call it, that your mother has not furnished Qur'ans in or whatever, subhanAllah. And so it's like, when I started that campaign, 500 orphans is literally like almost $500,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's why when you said 500, I was like, oh.
Yeah. Even my siblings were like, what are you talking about? And you guys had your fundraising guy, Zahir, came down to Canada, and we had a dinner that only had 50 people in it. Like it was like we took the restaurant, like basically. So we just, you know, booked out this restaurant, and subhanAllah, we did 300 orphans in that one dinner.
MashaAllah. Allahu Akbar.
Just that one dinner, right? And alhamdulillah, we did 2 little dinners, and then we did a LG campaign, and we were able to do the 500. And so, you know, my advice for everyone, you, people in your office, people in our office, everyone, is just start with the intention and work towards it. And Allah, the barakah just comes, right? And so with the case of Sudan, like I remember, like I had to fly back to Port Sudan. And I remember being on the flight going, oh my God, how are we gonna help all these people? Like there's people who don't have bread, like they're not eating. Like I'm not usually a proponent of food security, by the way, because I feel like anyone can feed people, but like I usually try to fundraise for either orphans or the projects like the livelihood projects or like hearing aids,
long-term development.
People normally are not going to give money to, right? But I was like, no, people are literally going to die if they don't eat, right? Like the bags of food that we were giving, I don't even know how people were carrying them. Like I couldn't even carry, like you had to drag, like it was crazy, but they were so happy to get them. Or water. Like this woman, 25 years old, she said, I look like I'm young, but I can't actually carry this water. We have had no running water for over 5 years. Imagine. And we have 2 water trucks that we own as Human Appeal, and we go into these really remote areas and we give them clean water. And we don't understand because for us, we just open a tap.
Yeah. Yeah.
It actually
Yeah.
does, like it never, I didn't realize how heavy water was,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so I went to help her and I was like, oh my God, how is she even carrying this for 5 meters? Right. And you see little kids that are coming to, and I know we've seen it in Gaza, we've seen it in different places. It's not that we haven't seen people need water, but we actually don't understand the logistics of not having food and the logistics of not having water, right? Like having to come at Fej and stand in a line of hundreds of people. Like the bakery will serve 2,500 families. Imagine standing in that lineup every day to get your bread,
Wow. Wow.
right? And so, and you have little kids and you're in the heat. The heat in Sudan is insane, right? And, I'm sitting
So
there with my
they weren't
son
lying.
screaming.
Yeah,
Oh,
they weren't
no,
lying.
no, no, no. I'm sitting there
Because
with my son screaming and
we
my
had a couple
cat.
of, just to give context, we had a couple of Sudanese brothers who knew that you were leaving the next day, and they were like, Rania, this is like, you don't understand the heat, like this is not human, like normal heat. And
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, I'm gonna bring my fan, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah. And I thought like, oh, and I got like a Dyson fan. Can I tell
Was it a
you?
joke?
It doesn't
Was it a
matter,
joke?
honey. It does not matter what kind of van you have. And the worst is actually, your team didn't know this, but I'm allergic to the sun.
Oh,
So I would come back at night and I just had rashes like all
oh
over. I know that's too much
no.
information, but like I'm
Subhanallah.
literally allergic to the sun. But and I stood out there for hours because I was like, you know, it's funny because um, one of your staff actually, but we'll stay quiet on that. They said to me, they're like, but we can go in, we can get because we also want to show where people's money has gone, right? Like part of going to the field is also showing your donations at work, right?
Right,
And
right,
we
right.
can go in, we can, take the videos and take the photos for the people, so that the people back in the States or Canada or the UK or whatever can know where their donations went. We don't have to be here for 2 hours
Right.
because
Yeah.
it's like crazy hot, right? And Haram, and also like Ali, your camera guy's like sweating to death. Like everyone is just like, it doesn't matter. I'm in like linen and I'm still dying. Okay. And obviously wearing hijab, it's a lot worse.
Yeah.
And I remember getting really upset.
Hmm.
And I said, part of why we go is to show people's donations, but honestly, I shouldn't even have to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but that's okay. I understand that. And part of it is to see the need, and part of it is to meet the team, and to assess what are the true needs in the country, or to be able to storytell, like you're saying.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, I shouldn't need to travel and storytell,
Right.
right?
Right.
But I said, I actually also believe that we're here for the people.
Yeah.
And what that means is a lot of times they're just a number. They're a statistic. There's millions that are in famine, 11 million
Right.
in famine, 19 million displaced, for instance. It's a
Right.
number.
Right.
They're a
Right.
number.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
recognize that they're a number. There are this many food packs, this many families, this many loaves of bread. We speak in numbers all the time. But every single one of those people is a person,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
So Rania,
And they want to feel heard and they want to feel seen.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we have to sweat for 2 hours, well, guess what? I get to jump in the air-conditioned truck after that,
Yeah.
right? They don't.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't get. It's like we're able to compartmentalize because we get to go home.
We get to leave. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't get to leave. And so the very least that we can do is feed and give them water and give them and do it with dignity, like, right? And have them feel like somebody from Canada. Like one woman said to me, you came all the way from Canada and you're thinking about us. And I said, yes. And it's not just me. It's not just me. The Ummah is thinking about you. But we have to prove that to them also with our donations and with our advocacy and with talking to our, in Canada, there are our MPs. I guess for you, it's your Congress people. Like, it's important. Allah is going to ask us, what did you do with the
What did you do?
privilege that you have? What did you do?
100%.
Allah's not, you can't stop the war in Sudan, right? But you can write and you can speak and you can make a phone call and you can post and you can make dua for them and you can pray qiyam for them and you can fast for them. And you cannot maybe drink the latte you were going to drink and donate that money for them, right? And even if you're a student, like I had some students with a different campaign, they put up their hand, they said, we're going to donate, $10,000. And this girl had nothing. And I said, honey, are you sure? She said, I'm going to, and she ended up making a dinner, like organized a dinner.
Yeah.
And she flew me down for this dinner. She said, can you please come to the dinner? She didn't fly me down. I mean, obviously I paid for my own ticket, but I went to this dinner and I spoke. They raised $37,000.
Allahu Akbar.
First year student. She got together with her brother and she was like, I don't have $10,000, but I'm going to raise the money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And even when I first got to the Human Appeal office, and I started actually my job in Ramadan, and I said, how many of you people have a community page? Don't all of us know people? Like
Right.
Sometimes we relegate fundraising to fundraising, but every single one of us is income generating.
100%. Yeah.
I'm not a fundraiser. I'm like the advisor to the CEO. Like I'm not a fundraiser, but I have anyone who knows someone who has family, who has friends, who has any type of anything, use it. Allah's just asking you to use what you have. And that I think is really the message I would say I'm giving to everyone in this world. Just use the privilege that you have to help the ummah.
Rania, I didn't even have to ask a single question because you covered everything I wanted to know. Allahu Akbar. I really, really, really appreciate this conversation. I really appreciate your witness and you letting us really understand, really, truly, what is the true experience of what's happening in Sudan. I will just give our listeners a couple of takeaways and action items. So you mentioned the Sudan campaign that you're launching tomorrow. We're going to link that. We talked about advocacy, and we have an entire advocacy platform now where people can be involved. We're going to link that. And obviously we're going to link our donation pages so that they know how they can give back. And even outside of all those things, really, like your last message is that every single one of us can crowdfund. Every single one of us can make a difference. We don't have to wait for a grand iftar or a Ramadan even. We can be doing this regularly, just to have the real intention and then make dua, and inshallah, Allah will istajib. He will answer our du'as. Anyway, so Rania, you're literally the most incredible guest. I really appreciate you. And to our Human Appeal supporters and advocates, thank you so much for tuning in. This conversation is only as useful as you make it. So if you're sharing, if you are tagging, please do subscribe to our page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that way you will get our alerts. If you haven't clicked the subscribe button, make sure that you do that. There's also a bell right next to it. Make sure that you click that so that you can get notifications whenever there's a new episode out. And please make sure you check out all of the links that we are putting below in the description. Until then, thank you so much for tuning in. Jazakumullah khair and salam alaikum. When you think about changing the world, we usually think about what we can give, a donation, a resource, and that generosity, it's absolutely incredible. It saves lives. But today, I want to talk about something just as powerful as your wallet, your voice. I'm thrilled to announce the official launch of Human Appeal's brand new grassroots advocacy program. We're building a dedicated network of advocates ready to engage directly with the U.S. Congress. We're taking the fight for humanity straight to the decision makers, and we want you with us. Whether you're passionate about reducing global poverty, alleviating hunger, ensuring every child has access to education, or supporting vulnerable orphans around the world, this is your platform to make a real systemic impact. Because here's the truth. Being a vocal advocate for these causes is every bit as important as being a donor. Funding builds the foundation, but advocacy changes the policies that keeps the walls standing. They go hand in hand. So what happens when you step up and join us? You won't just be signing your name on a list. You'll be stepping into a community. As an official Human Appeals advocate, you'll get real-time action alerts so you know exactly when and how your voice is needed most. You'll get alerts for our latest podcast episodes, exclusive event announcements, and deep dive humanitarian educational opportunities to grow understanding of these critical global issues. And the best part, we're organizing in-person meetings right on Capitol Hill. You'll have the opportunity to sit down face-to-face with your representatives and demand action for the most vulnerable communities on Earth. Real change doesn't just happen. It's spoken into existence by people who refuse to stay quiet. Join our grassroots advocacy program today. Add your voice, and let's make sure Congress hears the human appeal.